take a pause from celebrating the nice weather and thinking about the immediacy of Sukkot, and share um, that just yesterday, maybe this morning in Israel, we lost a giant, and I want to share a little bit about her. Her name was Alice Shalvi, and I encourage all of you to go to YouTube, type in Alice Shalvi, type Shalvi, and learn something about an extraordinary, true giant in Jewish history, in certainly Israeli history. Um, Alice Shalvi died at 97. She is survived by 5 of her 6 children. One had died. More than 20 grandchildren, more than 20 great grandchildren. And Alice was the birth of Israeli feminism, really, and was iconic in the way that she used her own life story, where she was born in Germany with her family. They escaped and moved to England and then made Aliyah. They made Aliyah just before her brother's bar mitzvah. She tells this story in an interview that she did just recently, maybe a few years ago, with one of my dear friends and teachers, Rabbi Tamar Elad Applebaum. I want to tell you a little bit about what she did. She won the Israel Prize, which is the highest prize in Israel, for her work as an educator throughout her life. She had to fight not only for the place of women in society, but also within academics. She eventually became the chair of the English department at Hebrew University in Jerusalem and Ben Gurion University in Beersheba, but that was an uphill battle because there was a lot of prejudice against women even in academic circles. She then shifted from university studies to being a high school director. She created, or she took over, a system called Pelech, one of the most famous girls' schools in Jerusalem, and it began teaching Talmud to girls, which was not heard of. This was, I think, in 1975. She took over the Pelech system, and she raised up generations of leaders by her own model. There's a lot to say about her, and I can connect it to a very beautiful teaching in Sukkot. It's a brief teaching, but there's a discussion in the Talmud about how to build a sukkah and what can serve as a wall, what can serve as the schach, as the covering. The general rules are that it can't be too tall, that it would feel exaggerated as a temporary space. Temporary spaces are not usually built more than one story, so you can't have a two-story sukkah. The walls you can actually have, I saw a friend do this just this last Sukkot, you can have strings that are less than about 3 inches apart, and they create the semblance of a wall. But interestingly too, a person can serve as a wall of a sukkah. A friend can serve as the wall of a sukkah. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you should see the examples in the Mishnah about building a sukkah on a camel, building a sukkah that looks in weird shapes. You can also go into any Google search and you'll see there are very strange looking sukkot built. So the idea that a friend can be a wall of a sukkah sounds strange, but is part of a series of strange teachings we have around the holiday. What does it mean for a friend to be able to serve as a wall of a sukkah? It means that in my experience of the world, during this Chag, where we are meant to really experience our own vulnerability, our own world. Think about the rule about the schach. It needs to have been living but is no longer connected to the earth. It can't be mechubar lakarka. And one of the things that tells you is that the notion of mortality, of the impermanence of life and its preciousness, is part and parcel of every part of the sukkah. And so that the schach was alive and can provide what you need for a time, so to each of us, that's what we are. We are alive. We are alive, and we can provide something for someone else while we're here. That's the most beautiful thing a person can do with their life. And Alice Shalvi, Zichrona Livracha, was an enormous wall of our people's sukkah. providing not just education, but the fight for women's rights, creating the Israeli Women's Network, shifting her religious practice eventually to stand with Torah and receive an aliyah for the first time at the age of 53 when she was visiting Milwaukee. And she remarked that had she been born a boy, she would have had that blessing 40 years earlier. But I want to tell you the most important thing. Well, I'll give you a funny story that I experienced myself, and then the most important thing I know about her. The funny thing, it's funny-ish. I was a rabbinical student in Israel for some time, and I was blessed to be in the institution where she served as the rector of the institution for 4 years. This was Machon Shechter in Jerusalem. And she would come to tefillot. She would come to our davening in the morning. And, a lot of times we moved pretty quickly through tefillot because we had class we had to get to, and we didn't always start right on time. So we almost finished davening, and there was a tradition to have a few words of Torah at the end, and lo and behold, Alice Shalvi got up to offer the words of Torah. And she told a story about how once a teacher of hers, after tefillot, told the whole class that they needed to create a composition of exactly 183 words. I'm making up the number. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they had to they had to write an essay of 183 words exactly, and it had to be of something significant. And her class worked hard for hours and hours and hours, and they finally each had their own compositions. They read them in front of the class, and then teacher said, "That was quite beautiful, and I was honored to honor you for your writing by listening and participating. I know the composition wasn't easy. The specificity of it wasn't easy. Here's why I asked you to do it. The Aleinu, the prayer that we ended with this morning, is 183 words, and we gave it 5 seconds. Think about what it means to pray quicker than you would read your own child's writing, your own student's writing. How is it possible to truly say that I'm praying if I go that fast?" Alice, by telling that story, taught us what it was to be in our tefillot and to see the words as intentions. That's a lesson I learned directly from Alice Shalvi that I've never forgotten. But here is a beautiful vignette. In an interview that Alice Shalvi provided so graciously in her advanced years to her student who became her teacher, my friend, Rabbi Tamar Elad Applebaum. You can find it on YouTube. It is it's Avichai is the foundation that sponsored the conversation, and it is only one of many, many opportunities, thank God, we have to continue learning from this giant, who we will all miss so much. So Tamar Elad Applebaum recounts how she remembers her first day of going to Pelech, the school that Dr. Alice Shalvi, Zichrona Livracha, was directing. She was also a classroom teacher at the time. And Tamar says, "I remember I came and I wasn't wearing appropriate clothes. It was raining, and I wasn't wearing an appropriate top, and I was wearing the wrong shoes." And Tamar teaches that before Alice Shalvi would teach any material, she made sure that every girl had dry socks and hot cocoa, because you need to have what you need if you are to actually and properly learn. That is just the mark of a mensch. It's the mark of a real teacher. It's the mark of a human being. It's why people like Tamar Elad Applebaum say about Alice Shalvi that she was their spiritual mother. I was blessed to have a very small encounter with Alice Shalvi, and I am dedicating the next period of my study to her work, because the loss of such a giant is not a quiet one and shouldn't go unnoticed. So I encourage all of you, friends, really, please. Even while I sing the melody with which we'll end today, find a video online and decide that you're going to watch it today. Learn from Alice Shalvi today. Let's remember that every word we utter should have intention, and we should give each other the honor of just listening. Not rush through life, not rush through prayer, not rush past each other. Let's make sure that everybody has dry socks, that everybody has cocoa. Let's make sure that we show up in the way that she would have told us to, taught us to, modeled for us. And to say the obvious to you, may you have dry socks too, so we can really learn right, and you can know how loved you are. Okay. May the memory of Dr. Alice Shalvi be for a blessing. Chag Sameach, friends. See you tomorrow.